big paychecks, lots of global travel, on fancy yachts all the time, champagne, caviar, all of the shiny stuff. There's plenty of those times. As time goes on though, you realize that a lot of those things are not needle moving. And the reality is what's really going to progress you forward to have more moments like that on your own terms and not on someone else's terms is by doing the hard work. I'd much rather play the long game. It's just about having a nice balance of, catch and kill now and doing the right things for the future.
You're listening to the Rising Tidecast, the podcast for sharing the stories, the lessons, and all the good stuff from legends in the marine industry. Welcome to another episode of the Rising Tidecast. I'm Steve from Rising Tide Film, and I'm very stoked to have Jack Warwick on today. Not many people make a name for themselves as quickly as this man does. He's a yacht broker based in Sydney. You've got an impressive reputation in a very short time, my man. And you're living proof of what consistent content does for your growth in the industry. So welcome, mate.
You're going to make me blush, mate. Thank you very much for having me. I'm very happy to be a part of it.
Awesome. Well, so did you grow up around boats, like around the water? And if you did, what did you love about it?
I'll take it right back for you. So I was born in Sydney originally, and then as soon as I was born, we actually moved out to a small country town called Cowra, which is about 4 hours southwest of Sydney. The reason being is that's where my mother grew up. She's one of, I think, 6 children, is it? Something like that. So they were, born and raised farm kids. She always had the desire to go back there, and her parents were living out there. So I think it was a matter of, 2 small kids. She wanted her parents to hang out with the grandchildren, and I think she just wanted to get back to her roots a little bit. So we lived in Cowra until I was about 13. So dad was a butcher, mum was a nurse, real, salt of the earth kind of people, blue collar. If you're living in Cowra, by the time you sort of turn into a teenager, your main options by the time you're in your late teens are either wrap a car around a tree, get a girl pregnant, or become an ice junkie. So I think they just wanted a little bit more for us than that.
Option D?
Yeah. Option D was move them out. We moved up to a bayside suburb called Cleveland, which is out on the bayside of Brisbane, about 40 minutes from the CBD there. And we lived there I stayed there until I was about 22 when I finally made the move down to Sydney. All the while, Dad's always kind of worked on boats though. So when we're in Sydney and, before they fell pregnant with me, Dad was working on the harbour. He's a Master 4. And so he was, everything from ferries, Matilda cruises, Captain Cook cruises, tugboats, you name it. So I think it's probably in my blood. His father was also a boat builder in New Zealand. He's a Kiwi. So I think it's probably always been in the blood. When we moved out to Cowra, there's not a great deal of water out there. So there's a river that flows through. So whether it was getting on a canoe or in a tinny or something, that was probably about as good as it gets. And then when we moved up to Cleveland, that was when I really kind of managed to get back out on the water or onto the water in general, because my father started doing the Stradbroke Island ferries. So there's barges and ferries that run back and forth to North Stradbroke Island. So, I'd finish school and then run down to the ferry, make the 4:15 barge or whatever it was, and I'd do the hour-long trip over with him, hour-long trip back over, an hour-long trip back, and then I'd come home in the car with him. So I just loved it. I loved being on the water. I loved listening to the older, salty dogs talk up in the wheelhouse, just talking shit. So
it's a way to grow up fast.
Yeah, definitely. So that was kind of it. And then when I was about 18, 19, you start going out to the clubs and partying and drinking, but all the while, Dad kind of towed me into a job. He went over to the Brisbane City Cats. So I actually went and worked on the City Cats as a ticket seller and then went into a deckhand position. So that was my first taste of working on the water. And after that, I eventually ended up getting into corporate. So I was in corporate telco with Vodafone and Telstra. And I did have a little 18-month stint at real estate. But I think, look, an 18, 19-year-old working in real estate trying to sell multi-million-dollar property, you just, there's a big, long road ahead. So I didn't end up pursuing it. Got into corporate and then eventually ended up moving down to Sydney for a job in advertising as a business development manager with an online publication. And from there, I kind of just kept on, working in that ad content marketing space, and eventually did a little spin up of my own kind of boutique agency, which offered a bit of everything. Social media was on the rise. So we did social media management, website development, branding, content production, social ads, you name it. So I had that agency and still have it now. It's in its 8th year of operation. It's slowing down a little bit now because I just literally don't really do anything in it. I respond to a few emails, but it just kind of ticks along. And then, ultimately, I always wanted to be a yacht broker when I was older, but I was thinking, it's probably one of those jobs that you're better off doing when you're sort of 40, 50 years old. That was kind of going to be my semi-retirement job. But I thought, if life's too short, if that's what you want to do, why are you doing it? And I saw, the content production space from a professional level slow down a little bit. We were going from doing, $250,000 television commercials. Everything was starting to become more user-generated content. So iPhones, gimbals, smaller camera setups, freelancers, and the barrier to entry was way, way, way less. And so I thought this is a good opportunity to go and pursue something else while money's still rolling in, go comms only and become a yacht broker. And that's how it kind of came about. So there's the end-to-end story.
That's awesome. So I love the calculated risk in becoming the comms only yacht broker.
I did a little bit of debit credit, but the moment that I'd sold a couple of boats / enough to get off it, I did, because I think he who's hungry will go out and hunt.
Yep. Would you say from an outside perspective, I know you are on the hunt, you are like producing the content, you're getting recognized. Would that be one of the driving factors that you think has contributed most to your rise in the industry over the last couple of years?
Yeah, I think there is that, but that also has come with a lot of discrimination, let's call it. Like a lot of existing people in the industry hated that because no one's really done it. It was quite new. So I was kind of, the odd child in the industry for quite a while there. And I'm seeing definitely everyone starting to level up the game now. It was always going to become the norm. But I think for me, what the biggest opportunity that I saw was brokers, and not to hang shit on anyone, I think forever and everyone's so busy and it's a tough industry in general. People will get cheap photos done because the owner doesn't want to spend money on, content and advertising. They'll upload it onto the top 4 platforms and they'll wait for the phone to ring and then they'll try and get an inspection. And I think the aim of the game with them was just to try and have as many listings as possible. For me, I thought, there's so many ways that you could do that, but you could do better at your job. Do you know what I mean? Whether it's doing a professional shoot, implementing a proper marketing and advertising strategy, getting a proper marketing and advertising budget from the client. If they go and sell their $5-10 million house, they're spending minimum $25,000 on production and ads and running half-page ads in the Wentworth Courier. My first few boats that I kind of listed, I ended up having to pay for the photos for myself because I would refuse to go and shoot it on an iPhone and they refused to part with any money. And I thought, if I can just get this boat sold by, investing $600-800 into photos and videos and what have you. And then I ended up doing that more and more. But now I literally put my foot down. I go, guys, if we're going to sell this boat, here's what we do. Here's all the examples of the content so you can see what you're going to get, but what the outputs look like. Here's where the ads are going to live. Here's a 6-week, initial strategy. And that's how we're going to go out with it. And then every Monday I'll send, a detailed report to the client breaking down site traffic, ad traffic, how many inquiries we got, how many inspections we got, how many calls we had. They're across the process every single Monday and they know that I'm working for them. Whereas if you compare that to what a traditional, more old school broker might do, nonetheless, you'll still get the boat sold. But I just wanted to show that there's another level that we can take it to. And I think the customers appreciate that. The customers or clients have turned into lifelong friends now, the ones that appreciate that process.
Yeah, because you're looking after them. And I think that's super special. And even taking it back to the start of that, when you said, I'm going to do this because I know it's the right thing to do, and backed yourself, even though you had to pay for it out of your pocket. There's something really special about that. I think people innovate all the time and try different things, but saying, no, I know this is the standard that we need to set and it's worked out. I think that's a very, very cool thing to say, case in point, I know this is going to help you get your boat sold, and look at all the other ways and people that are now doing this in a different version of it. I think that's really awesome. So what was the moment that sparked for you when you started being a broker that, oh man, this is the space I'm supposed to be in. This is where I want to be?
I think having a love for the water and a love for the boats that we work with on a daily basis, for me, it was just seeing the mediocrity in the space, the lack of professionalism in the space. I thought, there's something here and I'm gonna go absolute hammer and tong on it. And for me personally, I even set myself quite an extensive list of KPIs that I want to hit every week. And that includes posting. I try to post multiple social content pieces every single day to try and reach as many people as I can. I try and do a certain amount of calls every single week. I try and go and do a walk around every one of the marinas every single week. I try and have a coffee with another broker to build a relationship with guys that I might conjunct with in the future. There's a whole list of them. And I try and, sometimes only get 80 or 90% of it done. But again, I know that not many people are doing that. And if I can do that over time, that's going to compound. So for me, when I realized that no one else was doing the things that I'd had to implement to become a successful production agency owner, I thought, why not apply this to what is such an ancient sort of methodology around selling something? And I know I can ramp it up. And so even now I'm so pumped for like what the future will look like. It's a really slow game, and you're constantly ebbing and flowing, and it's super tiring, and it's a long time in between meals. But yeah, I'm so excited for the future, man. I'm pumped.
I'm wondering, because we take lessons from our career journey and our life and then apply them to the next chapter in our life. I'm a big believer in, like, you're not just doing something that you hate, you're learning from it and then you're applying it into the next thing that you do. What is it that you think you took, like big takeaways? You said that, being in the ad agency space was not defined as like the career path in your eyes for yourself. Like, what do you think it was from maybe that chapter in your career that you've applied to this that really has helped you a lot and gained momentum in the industry in your career?
I think probably staying, having a level of aspiration that I want to get to. If I wanted to just do the bare minimum, collect a paycheck every week, I'd literally go and work for someone, because you can duck and weave, do the bare minimum, pick up your paycheck at the end of the week. But I've always wanted so much more than that. So for me, trying to get to that next level, you've got to push yourself, which means you need to learn new skills and you've got to implement those skills with consistency. And again, going back, probably implementing those KPIs, which stem from having to run a business that you're trying to rapidly grow. You need to set new goals and benchmarks every week, month, quarter, year that you're trying to achieve. And so whether it's personal life or business life, I've always got goals is a bit woo-woo, but I think KPIs is probably more realistic from a business metric that I like to use, and implementing those on everything, whether it be the content that we're shooting. We want to get X amount of photos from this shoot. I want X amount of reels, and we want to reach X amount of eyeballs. How can we do that? Reverse engineer it. So everything for me, I try and apply a metric to it that I'm trying to achieve.
It's another way to show you value.
Yeah,
right,
that's
to the
it.
people that you work
And if
with.
you fall short, you tried harder than what you would have if you're just trying to get that piece of content out the door, or that phone call made, or, you're just getting through your Monday to Friday, 9 to 5.
I'm a big believer also in that, you're learning from every experience, but also I think it's really helpful to find the gift in everything. So a negative situation, like, how is this benefiting me, or how can I take it and become better? If you think back about some of the more challenging things, I guess, throughout your career, what one stands out to you and why, and what do you think you learned from it?
I don't know if there's a particular scenario, but I think it's super important to reach a height and then hit rock bottom, lose it all again. And I've done it so many times over the past 15 years. Like, there was a period of time where I decided to leave kind of the advertising sphere, and I wanted to go and open up a cafe out in Bondi. And I've never lost so much money in my life, because I hadn't done it. I thought I knew what I was doing, but it was so important to hit rock bottom. And there was so many learnings out of that experience that I still apply to this day, or even look for ways that I can try and resurrect myself through. Cool, I did that. How could I mitigate doing that? By, seeking out learning something new, by listening to a new podcast or finding a bit of information online. So I think, overall, it's so important to have losses. Like, it really is. And it keeps you in check. And I think that's probably why I'm a little bit addicted to sales and having some kind of commission only sort of lifestyle as well, because you get so hungry. You have to figure it out. Otherwise, you're going to not die, but you're going to have to go and surrender yourself to a company and go, give me a salary again, give me the golden shackles. And I just never want to do that. And I think if you can keep yourself accountable and work really hard, then you'll keep yourself as far away from those losses as possible. But they're bound to come in every aspect of life, right? Whether it's your health, your fitness, your family, your friends, your relationships, your kids, like, there's always going to be losses, but I think it keeps you in check. And I love that no matter what role you go into or what company or what sector, it's always going to happen. I kind of like it. I'm a bit of a sicko.
It's a personality trait. That's rare.
Yeah.
The
But
sickoness.
also, if you don't like that, then you're going to be so mad at the world. And I know so many people that are so angry at the world and why did this happen to me? And, it's his fault. And I think, like, if you're accountable on all fronts for yourself, you're the only one to blame, but then it prevents you from doing it because you don't want to let yourself get to that space. So
that hunger is rare. And it's something that, being a broker from the outside, if you haven't done it before, I don't think a lot of people know what it actually takes to become really successful in the industry, because the allure and what it looks like is probably a little bit different than the reality. You've given us a bit of insight into your reality. Before you got into the game, what did you think? What was the allure? Like, what drew you, I guess, into it? And then what's been the reality compared to that?
yeah, I think as an outsider, big paychecks, lots of global travel, on fancy yachts all the time, champagne, caviar, all of the shiny stuff. And don't get me wrong, there's plenty of those times. As time goes on, though, you realize that a lot of those things are not needle moving. And the reality is what's really going to progress you forward to have more moments like that on your own terms and not on someone else's terms is by doing the hard work. And so I think I'm only new to the industry. I'm only a couple of years in, and by no means, it probably looks, I don't know if it looks flashy online. It probably does to a lot of my friends think it does, but it's definitely not. And it's a real job every single day, but there are moments where you get to enjoy it for sure. But yeah, that's probably the main one, is that it's a very shiny beast on the outside, but when you're in it, it's, broker's job is so similar to, I'd compare it to a real estate agent. You're bashing the phones every day. You're doing a million emails. You're doing inspections inside of hours, outside of business hours, on weekends. You're a workhorse, because if you don't sell anything, you don't get paid. And so everyone else gets to go to their job Monday to Friday, get their paycheck, go for after work drinks on a Thursday, Friday or whatever, and enjoy their weekend. You're on call all the time, but I think what makes up for it is ultimately those little key moments of pleasure when you're flying along and delivering a boat or something and wind in your hair, or hanging out with your mates, or taking a stock boat or something out, whatever it might be. They're the things that make it fun for me now, not so much the big, super yachts, champagne, mingling with billionaires, because it's not, I don't know. Your taste just changes, I think, as time, and your expectations change as well.
We talked a lot about the skills and the things that you go through on a day-to-day basis. It's a twofold question, because at one point I was like, oh yeah, being a broker, that would be all right. Like, could do the photos. And no, it's way too much. Like, I know what it takes, and it's crazy. So I guess main skill that you think is super important for somebody considering, to me, it sounds like hunger from what we talked about, but that's one thing. And then number two, something that I was really kind of in two minds about, is the depth of knowledge required about just boats and boating in the industry. Like, is that make or break for becoming a yacht broker, or can you get by with basic stuff and I'll get back to you on that? I'm going to look out for you and make sure you get the right answer, kind of thing.
I think the most foundational skill is sales, I think, probably more than anything. And my definition of sales is a little bit different to what everybody probably perceives sales. Everybody thinks real hard, gung-ho, sell. That's not my style, and I don't believe those salespeople really achieve that much in today's day and age. I think you need to have a good product that people want. You need to provide an amazing service, and you need to be able to build the relationship with those people. And if and when the time is right and they have the money and you've done your part of the job, they'll buy something from you. And so that to me is the sales process. And so if you can follow those processes, which is, the calls, the emails, all the bits and pieces, combine it with that list of things that I just said, that's sales in my mind. The second part around boating knowledge, I think, sure, you probably couldn't do it without having the boating knowledge, but it's something you can learn. There's so much basic terminology that you can pick up. And then, the more in-depth, granular things like data, like operating max speeds, mileage, range, all of these bits and pieces, it just comes with time. And I'd have to say, sure, in the last 2 years, I've learned so much, but it definitely, you need to have some kind of foundational level of sales and boating knowledge. And I think mine came from being around boats, fishing with dad on a little center console tinny, right on through to then working in more of a commercial industry as a decky for a little bit on the city cats on the Brisbane River. It definitely helps, but it's nothing that you can't learn. Do you know what I mean? Yep. It's like go and shadow someone. And I think real estate agents do it really well. They'll shadow someone for a couple of years, learn everything there is to know. They'll go out on their own, then they'll get an assistant, then they'll build a team. And I'm applying a similar kind of strategy at the moment. I've got a young guy underneath me, Casimir, his name is. He's still at uni. He works at Marina part-time, loves boats. He actually just bought his dad got him a Grady White from Short recently, actually. So he's out on the water frothing every day. He's up at Pittwater right now. But he reached out to me, wanted to do work experience. I saw that he had the hunger in him. He comes from a great family, good background, loves boats, works in the marina. He has that foundational knowledge of the marine industry and boats in general. And I think the sales stuff I'll be able to teach him, because there isn't that really hardcore salesy guy, I think, anymore. I think it's more about just follow the process and do it consistently. That's sales in my mind.
Yeah. That's huge. Yeah. So to that point, tell me about what your view is on time horizons, because sales sometimes can be a short-term thing, right? I want to buy a boat now, or it's a long-term kind of relationship building customer journey, or you're looking for the right boat for someone for a long time till they find exactly what they want. So how do you view, like, I guess, a short-term time horizon with what you're doing with your clients, but also in the long term, I think for your clients, but also for building your brand, because building your brand is a big part of what you're doing right now.
Yeah, for sure. I kind of have processes in place to cater to both, let's say, buyers or clients. So the immediate ones or buyers, active buyers now, I'm probably working anywhere between 30 and 50 buyers at a time. I'd say 5% of those are really, really legitimate and they're going to buy something in the next couple of weeks. The other guys I seem to talk to anywhere between 3 to 6 months. And so the way that I've found those buyers is obviously by having listings or running ads against pieces of content on boats that I've shot, which is obviously, develops the inquiry. I will then put them into a CRM, into my database. If they're actively looking for boats, I'll have Cass prepare listings for them or, options for them to review. Every single week, I'll try and, text them, call them, email them, keep in the loop, let them know that I'm still working for them at any point in time, whether it's listed with us or with a, competitor broker or conjunct with anyone. So it's about, I'm going to find the right boat for you based on your requirements, your budget, your cabins, your preferred length, your location, whether it's something from overseas, we can help you bring it in. They're the immediate ones. The more long-term ones, I've got a monthly EDM or, mail out that I send, electronic mail that I send out called Mariner Mail. And the way that I've kind of formulated that is to be more of it's more of an entertainment piece. And it's something that I want them to open up each month and not go, oh, another mail out from a broker. What's just listed? What's just sold? It's like that generic kind of piece of content that every broker sends out. So Mariner Mail is meant to be a little bit more storytelling and have a bit more of a format to it. So the whole way it's sort of designed is it's broken down into watch, read, listen, hot listings, and then a really nice introduction at the beginning, which, kind of gives them an update of what's going on. So the most recent one that I sent out was a bit of an overview as to what happened in Cannes and Monaco yacht shows, what boats kind of got under contract, what's happening in the market. And then watch would have been, the latest kind of walkthrough or video reel that I've done. So I think it was on one that we're working with on Sam, the Regal 38 SAV. And then in terms of listen, it'll be the latest podcast episode. So you can see all of these are original content pieces too. I'm not just gathering a bunch of stuff and putting it in there. Yeah. And then the hot listings will be a bit of a mix of all my favorite boats that are listed at the moment, just to keep everyone kind of updated. It's crazy. I'm shocked being from the advertising industry that like the average kind of open rate on an EDM is like 2% or something minimal, right? I've only got say 600 people on this database, but it's got an 85% open rate. And so for me, I'm like, that's amazing. People listening, engaging with it, reading it, clicking through to the podcast and listening. I track where all the clicks go. If someone's, clicking on a listing, I'll give them a call and go, mate, did you have any interest in it? Are you still looking? So that's kind of one way for me to keep in touch with them once a month, 12 times a year. Outside of that, if someone's on my database, I'll call them quarterly and check in. If they don't answer, I'll send them an email or a nice text, just let them know I'm there. And the whole idea is, again, kind of that real estate model where keep in touch with them quarterly via phone, send them a monthly EDM, try and have a coffee with them or take them for a lunch once a year. If and when they go to sell their boat or they're looking to buy a boat, I just hope that I'm the guy. Again, it's not a salesy thing. It's about, I'm here, I'm trying to do all the right things in the right way. And if you ever need anything, let me know. That's kind of my strategy.
That's awesome. Yeah. Being top of mind and I think looking out for them.
Yeah.
And giving them things that they actually want to read and listen to and interact with.
Yeah, there's times when, we're preparing listings for someone who's looking for a boat and it's not with a brokerage. So I'm not necessarily going to make any money off of it. It's with a private, it's listed privately on boat sales. I'm not going to reach out to that guy and ask for a commission. We'll send it on and go, let me know if I can help you with it. Because if that buyer buys that boat in 2 to 3 years' time when he goes to sell it, I just hope that I get to go and list it for him and market it for him. And then he's going to buy a new boat then. So it's about having that long-term vision as to how you want to play and not just a cash grab. It's just, it's not my style. I'm definitely all for a deal and getting fed, but I'd much rather play the long game. It's just about having a nice balance of, catch and kill now and doing the right things for the future.
What is it that you think about when you're posting or when you're creating something or sharing something on socials? Because I noticed that you post a lot and it's not always the content that you're making, but you're creating this awareness and almost this I've heard of people basically getting interested in buying boats from you because they're seeing boats that you're posting that may not be, you're not representing, but you love them and you know that your clients are wanting to see that. So I'm interested in your thought process for finding and sharing things and what that looks like and how you think it helps connect to what your audience wants to get from you.
Yeah, I think I try and reverse engineer it a little bit. So I think if you're not looking for a boat right now, why do you want to sit there and be peppered with boats all day long from someone? So for me, it's about trying to add value by creating a roster of content that goes out weekly for people to consume that's diverse. And it'll range from all different types of boats to not alienate anyone and go, hey, I'm only the premium boat, big boat guy, and I don't deal with, bow riders or whatever. I think ultimately, if I want to work with more people in a broader market, you have to post all different types of boats. So I'll do everything from, your Chris Craft bow rider right on through up to your, 100-foot plus Sunseekers and your 43-foot Pardos. And the brands might not be within our wheelhouse to sell new, but ultimately we sell Brokerage as well. So it's trying to create, like a diverse roster of content that'll go out, which adds value to people. They're seeing walkthrough videos. They're seeing new boat promo sizzle reels. They're seeing, here's a walk around from the Dubai Boat Show, which they probably never would have considered to ever go in their entire life. It might be a snippet of a really nice, engaging answer from a podcast guest or something. If you're interested in boats, the marine space, fishing, whatever it might be within that whole kind of realm, I'm just trying to create a little package for you to consume every single week. That's the plan. And I want it to be sort of a 50-50 split, or I'd love it to be more, but it's trying to find the time to produce the content. I'm trying to make a 50-50 split of original content. So it's mine and I'm, provoking thought and coming up with the ideas and steering the narrative, as well as his, content that already exists from the dealers and the brands or another broker or whatever it might be. Yeah. So that's kind of let's call it the strategy, but it is a long game. I post so much and you get nothing from it. And then all of a sudden you do. The most exciting thing that I can share, that if you're willing to push this content out all the time, it does deliver. And examples of that, I've had 3 clients now who have bought Brokerage boats from me, who have never had a boat before, never been out on, with the family boat or anything like that. And they didn't have their boat licenses. So whilst we were waiting for the handover period, they physically had to go and get their boat license before they could get their boat. And I'd have to organize them, driving lessons with an instructor or whatever, so they could facilitate the takeover. And so for me, that's pretty cool. And they said to me, I kept on getting peppered by your ad and seeing, and I thought, fuck, I just want to get out on the water. And that's my style of boat. And I wouldn't have done it if I hadn't seen the content you produce. So for me, that's 3 deals alone, which is enough for me to say, keep going with it. You know what I mean? 100%. You added value to someone's life. And firsthand that once they get on the water, they'll never get off it and they love it. So I'm proud of that.
That's huge. And that's a service that you're doing for people that is very much in line with your looking after people's sales process and how you do things, which is awesome, because I think from the outside, it can look like, oh, he's just posting things all the time. But knowing that your intention is, I just want to get more people aware of what's possible for their boat and for their life on the water. That's awesome to be able to do that.
And stay tuned too, because I think my plan is I've got so many ideas for these kind of mini original content series that live on socials, which add value to boaties. And so I'm just trying to find the time, resources and energy to produce them and edit them and publish them, but they are coming. So it won't just be the sort of these quick walkthrough videos. It's more lifestyle-y content, things you can do with your boat, places to go, talking to industry people such as, driving instructors right on through to marina managers. There's a whole plethora of kind of content series that I want to push out and they're in the works. But yeah, it's just time, man. I'm trying to also sell boats.
Yeah. Oh, it's a big thing. I mean, that's why you get a team involved, right? But I think where you're headed is such a great recipe, because that educational piece not only gives people value and gets people interested, but it builds trust with you, because if you're the one on camera, and the characters are really having a unique character that you can trust and get information from that benefits you, it's a great recipe.
Yeah. So, and I get asked a lot too. People ask me questions in the DMs just about different types of boats and how much would this be? And I'm not even the dealer or the broker for that boat, but it's again, trying to add that value and just be a good person. I think it's hugely beneficial. So if you're not following, come and follow along.
So that's one of the other things too that's really great is your podcast, right? Seize the Deal. So I want to ask about that. Why did you start it? And how is that, have you seen it affecting what your business is doing, I guess, compared to your intention for starting it in the first place? Because original content takes time to do. It's very time consuming, but also I think it's part of that long play, right? It's in the long time horizon. So talk to us about Seize the Deal. What's it all about and why'd you start it?
Yeah, so Seize the Deal, I suppose, came about because I, similar to yourself, I consume so much audio content. A lot of it's business related because it helps amp me up. Bit of content stuff like, content and ad stuff similar to your Gary Vee style podcast. So I consume a lot of it. And I thought I would love to be listening to brokers talk about boats. I'd love to hear industry people talking about the marine industry, whether it be surveyors or, whatever it would be. I'd find it interesting, and nothing existed. I searched around everywhere. There was a couple of episodes people had tried to do over in the States, and that, they'd done one 12 months ago and then never picked it back up again because it's so time consuming.
I think they say there's like a super small percentage of podcasts that make it past 10 episodes.
Yeah.
And then after that, you're in like the top 1 or 2% or something like that.
I heard another one that you just do it for 2 years and then only then will someone start realizing that you still have a podcast. So sad, but we just got to keep on it. Yeah, it's seriously time consuming. But for me, the industry is everyone's quite cold to newcomers. And I found that a little bit of a funny space coming from advertising where everyone wants to know everyone. And the more people you know, the better. When I first came in the industry, it was very cold. No one would come up and shake your hand randomly at a show or something. And so I thought this is a great opportunity to speak to industry people and build a relationship with those people. And to your point earlier, tell their story. It's not, selfishly for me, it's a brand building exercise, and I get to create content, that evergreen content that lives audibly on Spotify and visually on Instagram and YouTube. Outside of it being selfish, I think, it was an amazing opportunity to tell people stories and just open them up. I think also you start creating community because you're almost the small town guy with the coffee shop where everyone comes in and has a yarn and tells their story. That's kind of what I'm trying to create. It's just a space they can come in and say what they do, who they are, what their upbringing was like. Some people have it so rough. And so I think it's easy to write someone off and go, oh, that guy's got, successful business. He came from here or there or whatever. The stories are always so different, and their values and what they're setting out to do. So that's kind of a bit of insights to it. It's going well. I set out to try and do it once a week, every week. I think if you're a listener of it, there's probably patches of 2 to 3 weeks where something doesn't come out.
It was ambitious.
But it's just tough. Yeah. It's hard to do it every single week. So apologies if you're expecting it every week, to the 100 of you or so that listen each week. But I'll try and do better, but it's a challenge. Yeah.
I think the other thing that's cool that I didn't realize until I was shooting last week up on the reef, and the one guy that had me up there, he's like, oh, I'll listen to the episodes. And I said, oh, what would you like to hear? Because feedback is a big thing. Like, give me the feedback. I want to do better. And he's like, I said, what kind of guests and stuff? And he was like, it's not about the guests. It's about you. Like, people want to listen to you and your journey, and, whether it's how people consume podcasts as well. So sometimes I guess if you're in the learning, like, I want to listen to podcasts like to learn, like we do, like business podcasts, then maybe that's one thing. But if you're doing it to like relax, or while you're driving a tractor, or just want to chill out, I think it's just building the connection with the host and enjoying their demeanor and how they speak with people. And it's a really cool gift, I think, that we don't realize that it is creating a connection, but it's also you're in their head, which is a really interesting place to be, I guess. But very cool, like very valuable for people.
Yeah, and I think also I try and, I don't even think I've had another broker on there, but I try and go industry people that will not often get to tell their story. It might be a refrigeration guy, a surveyor, or whoever it might be. And, there's such cog in the wheel kind of people, or considered such cog in the wheel kind of people, but without them, the industry falls on its ass. So having a platform to be able to share their story, they'll then share it with their friends get to know them better. Again, selfishly, it then obviously multiplies in terms of more listeners. But I just love being able to give people a little platform where they can come on and share their story. And there's someone else who might be considering getting into their industry or their field, it'll inspire them. We just did an episode with you, and I'm sure that I get hit up so much by content guys wanting to get into the marine space. Mm-hmm. And I'd love to be able to give them as much time as I do. Maybe I'll just flick them to you moving forward. But
please do.
Yeah, I think your episode will be so valuable to those guys that want to create content around boats. So each of those little industries or sectors, that's what I'm trying to do, is just create a platform for them.
That's what it's all about. Yeah. Helping and giving stories and stuff.
I know it won't sell boats, and that's not the intention. Yeah. Like, that really isn't. It's more an industry thing for me to be able to play with. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you create a lot of content of yourself. Presence on camera is a big thing. I guess, what are some tips? Because that is a challenge. That is also something I hear constantly from people. It's like, that's not me. I don't want to do it. And like, yes, I understand it's not everybody, but number one, how much is that untrue in your eyes, like in the desire to actually build something? And then what tips do you have for someone that maybe didn't do it all the time and now has to do it or chooses to do it all the time? And obviously, like, you're great at it. So what do you think are some of those 1%ers or the key things maybe that help you do a great job?
Well, thanks, Steve. But I wish you could go through my phone and look at all of the outtakes, bloopers, and the Google Drive folders and hard drives of shit that will never make it to air.
So number one is get a good editor.
Yeah, get a good editor. No, like it's so unnatural to any human, I think. Even a TV presenter, when they first start out, they're terrified. Actors going to audition, they're terrified. It's a skill that you pick up through consistency, and it sucks and it's difficult and you hate looking at yourself. But it's so unnatural to me and I hated doing it. But again, if you can do it and you're one of the 5 or 6 people that are doing it and there's 500 other brokers out there around Australia, you're going to set yourself apart. So why not? Isn't the objective to, get better clients, sell bigger boats, make more money and provide a better service? And I think it's one way and a really effective way to bring in more clientele for yourself. So I think get over it. Like I had procrastinated for so long and I still do. There's so many weeks that I don't feel like doing it. I don't want to do it, but get over yourself and just jump on there, have a crack. Know that you can do 50 takes and just pick your best one. It's not about nailing it. You're not going to get it the first go. Every single video that I do, even our podcast intro earlier, there's stuff that we're going to delete out because I'm fumbling my words. What people see is the end edited product. So just have a go at creating content. Do 5 different intros, 5 different outros, 5 different takes of every sort of single piece. But I think the biggest thing is planning and preparing what you're going to talk about. For a long time, I'd get on a boat and try and do a walkthrough video. You're just talking crap. So now what I do for every single shoot, whether it be big or small, is I write a bit of a video synopsis where I go learn everything about the boat, have all of the sort of key features and utilities up above and the spec and everything. And then I'll sort of try and consider what a bit of a hook might be. Like one of the main things on social at the moment is people aren't really watching past 3 seconds or 5 seconds. So what are you going to say within that first 5 to 10 seconds that's going to keep them engaged and what's going to hold them through to the end? So there's a bunch of different, YouTube channels and people like Gary Vee you can go and listen to where you can learn about hooks and intros and outros, and then filling the rest of the content is what's going to add value to them. I think they can look up most of the specs quite easily and that's not what's going to phase them. And that's something that I've been trying to steer away from now and move into more lifestyle. So what you were talking about, how are they going to use the boat? Like who's going to be using it? The family or the friends? Where are the boys going to be sitting? Their beers kept? Like the utility of the boat, I think, is more important in a walkthrough video. So they'd probably be my tips: is getting over it, be prepared, doing lots of outtakes and just, man, have a bit of fun with it. And I touched on it earlier in my episode with you, is try and be authentic. For a long time, I was trying to be this polished version of myself. And now I think if you meet me in real life, I'm a bit of a larrikin, down-to-earth bloke. So I think just let that shine in the content now. And so I'm trying to let that go a little bit now and just be a bit more authentic in what I'm doing.
Oh, it's the best way to build a connection with somebody. And that's what it's all about. You're just looking out for them. And I think the one thing you said that relates to maybe your previous career chapter is the pre-production involved and, owning a content agency. That's a big thing, right? The importance of that. Nothing gets shot unless you have a plan for it. You're not just winging it. So that's something that's super important to transfer to, I think, this industry when people, whether it's brokers or business owners or whoever is the voice of your brand, gets on camera, do the work beforehand. This is a saying I've heard that's unfortunately in the imperial instead of metric system, but an ounce of pre-production is worth a pound of post.
For sure.
So make it happen, put the work in, because not only are you going to produce a better product, but you're going to say the right things. You're going to get it out faster. It's annoying to have to do for a lot of people if they haven't done it before, but it's worth its weight in gold.
Yeah, 100%. A lot of people write me off and go, oh, he had a production company first and then they used to manage social and blah, blah, blah. Just keep in mind, I never did any of that stuff. I was the business owner, operator. At best, I was producer, which basically meant getting a brief from a client, pitching in the business, getting it costed up in accordance with working with all the freelancers, getting it signed off, and then making sure that I had the right crew on the job and everyone was assigned to doing their role. So the whole storytelling, writing piece, I didn't used to do that. That was creatives. And so don't think for a second that I can do this because I was the guy that used to do that for 8 years. I never did any of that stuff. So everything that I'm doing now is self-taught from looking at things on the internet and trial and error. And it's only within the last kind of 18 months that I've been doing it. And so I think just pick it up, just have fun with it. A little task that I heard from a podcast the other day, which I've tried to implement, is every morning whilst I'm at the gym in between doing something, you can't tell that I go, but every morning that you're at the gym in between a set or whatever it might be, or if you're walking on a treadmill or whatever, is force yourself to write So write a concept for a little social video, write a concept for a walkthrough video, start writing down what the intro might be, the outro might be, and write one piece of content every single day. And so I'd love to say that I'd stick to it and do it every day. I try my best, but there's days I don't. But that process alone has made me better at formulating social content and just content in general, whether it be ad write-ups for listings and what have you. Just making yourself think instead of outsourcing it to ChatGPT.
Please don't do that. Disclaimer, please
We
don't
use
do
that as a little finessing tool every now and then.
It's great for brainstorming, but it's so true because the more you practice at it, like the more your focus is on that, the more your energy goes to it, the better you're going to be when it actually comes time to produce it. I'll do a similar thing where I have a story bank. So something happens in your life and you're like, oh, this would be a great story. I'm going to write it down and then I'm going to figure out how I can relate this personal experience to what I do or to something that will help the people that I work with. So that's awesome. Just getting in the routine of doing that.
And someone said to me as well, like, just start doing it, forget about it, get over yourself. And you'll look back and go back to your first piece of content that you ever did and you'll laugh your absolute head off. And I did it this morning. I was just going through some stuff for trying to find a listing to send someone on an old boat because they were looking at doing theirs. And I came across one of my pieces of content and man, I've never cringed so bad in my entire life. But do you know what? It just doesn't matter. Like you're in your own head. It's not about you. It's added value. Multiple people liked it, multiple people watched it, multiple people shared it. Someone got value out of it. Get out of your own head and get over it. Just don't worry about it.
And that's the thing too. No one ever sees every piece of content or cares really about you that much to watch every single thing that you do. Doesn't matter. So like the more you can actually put it out there and practice, like unless it's like completely against your brand, like it's great. Just put it out there.
And if someone's willing to go out of their way to either write a nasty comment or share it with a friend and say, what an idiot or whatever it might be, like that's on them, man. And they've got problems and there's, they're lacklusting in their own life. Otherwise they wouldn't have the time to sit there and do that. And I think if they applied what someone like myself was doing in their own business or their own role or their own field, they would feel the exact same way as I do. You can only get better at it. So just, have a crack at it.
I guess to that point, what do you think in the realm of, social media presence that a lot of dealerships or brokers are missing the mark on? Is it the volume of content? Is it the personalization? Like from your eyes, what do you think it is? Because you've done something different in the industry and see what was the norm beforehand.
I think the standards definitely slowly elevating. Everyone's starting to put in more effort. The short guys obviously do an amazing job. I watched a Chapman video the other day. They were incredible. Their production level it's now going to become the content wars, I think, between all of us, which is fun because obviously it just pushes everyone to go a bit better. I think some people who are a little bit older in the way that they think is refraining them from letting go and potentially bringing in more revenue into the business. There's part of investing in professional content to deliver results right then and there for their clients who are buying boats or the brands that they deal. There's also a long-term play that I think they're forgetting as well, which is let's film every single boat, whether it be walkthrough, sizzle reel, key features, creating with this asset pool, which will ultimately set them up and provide them content for longer than a year. So I think creating content for the sake of it, which they know will be evergreen and will benefit their clients who are buying boats and the boats that they're dealers for. All too often it's a quick, here's a video of a listing that we've got, and then it's out the door and it's sold and see you later. There's no time, energy and money being invested into here's who we are, here's what we do. I think the short guys do it really well. I mean, I just touched on that video, that their About Us video that you guys shot. It was incredible. It's so meaningful. It tells their story. There's client testimonials. I think everyone could be doing that a little bit better and more consistently. Like nothing bad will come from creating more professional content and doing it more regularly. That'd be my main thing.
I think that's awesome. And volume, right? And I think looking at content in a different way than this is just for this boat. If you look at the content that you're making as, yes, it's for this boat, but it's also to build our brand and show our audience who we are through introducing the people and the lifestyle that we promote and everything, and adding authenticity to it that's in line with the brand values, mission, and vision.
Yeah.
That's really powerful. And it makes the content that might seem quick and dirty and you have to produce heaps of it, it gives it so much more value.
Yeah. I think also don't expect yourself to have to know what kind of content to produce. Lean on a professional like yourself where you can go, hey, we've thought about doing more content. We're seeing everyone do it. We don't really know what to do. We want to just have a bit of a workshop and discuss an overarching strategy, which we can pluck little bits away and go, cool, we're going to allocate X amount of money and time and energy and resources to doing, we see value in that, and that. And once they start seeing the longer brand play come to life or engagement with the content or leads come in, then you can start spending more. You don't have to throw the kitchen sink at it and go, we want to put someone on 200 grand, a little mini agency on a 200 grand retainer a year. Just start admit the fact that you need to do it because everyone's going to do it and you'll get left behind if you don't. Start leaning on professionals to do it properly for you. Invest a little bit and then a little bit more, and you'll slowly start seeing the results. And the long-term effects that'll have on your business, like incredible.
Massive, yeah.
Incredible.
Those are the conversations I'm having now. I'm having more, we want to do this, we can't afford it. So adding a consultation offering to what I'm doing to be able to help more people, I think it's super valuable. Start there.
I think in terms of a really easy way for someone to make content, whether it be on their iPhone, if they've got a small brokerage team and there's an assistant or something working for them, is everything you're doing throughout the day is an opportunity to create content. If you're doing an inspection for a boat, bring along the young guy, film everything that you're doing, whether it's uncovering the boat, getting set up, that in itself is a video. Then do a walkthrough while you're there before the client gets there. Then do a video of packing down the boat and getting everything prepped up. There's 3 pieces of content there. There's multiple stills. You can edit it all in post or hand it over to a guy to do it. But that's one instance where all of a sudden you've got 4, 5, 6 different bits of content. If you're at a boat show, you could be filming every single day a sizzle rate reel of the boat show. And then every single model you've got on display is a piece of content. You can do stills and what have you with different people that are attending the show, and then walk around and do some interviews with punters on the street, so to speak, or go and chat with another brokerage and have a funny little interview with them. There is endless opportunities, but it's just start thinking that every single thing that you're doing throughout the day is an opportunity to film or shoot a bit of content.
It's a great mindset. It works, right?
Yeah.
What do you love most about your job right now?
I don't know if there's a specific thing. I think ultimately the buyers that I'm finding that I'm working with are more and more often turning into friendships. And I love that. Like, it's amazing. And they're really good guys and girls too. So that's incredible. But I think nothing beats when you get to go and move a boat or jump on a boat for a sea trial or go and do an inspection with someone and you get to go and rip around the harbour, the wind in your hair, and you're on, a multi-million-dollar boat in one of the most scenic places in the world. They're my 2 favorite things for sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you ever see your life taking this turn and being like where you are right now?
I never see my life taking the turn in which it does on every single bend and turn that it has had so far. Like I said, I've gone from advertising and corporate telco and owning a cafe, and it's just twists and turns. But every single job and, career path that I've had, you get a little takeaway from each of them.
What's great about the constant changing, the having to iterate and access the next chapter of your life?
There's always something that you'll learn from one specific role that you can apply to the next one. Whether it's how to communicate with someone, what not to put in an email, when to pick up the phone instead of sending an email, paying someone up front instead of paying them after and then not paying them at all, whatever it might be. There's just always a little learning in every single industry or sector that you'll work in. That's why I kind of like getting older. I'm only 34 now, but I just feel like I'm getting better and better and better at things that I'm doing because you make mistakes. So I think allow yourself to make the mistakes.
Yeah. That's where some of the greatest lessons are learned, right?
Don't beat yourself up.
The reputation's big in this industry, and so is your network, right? Who you know, and the taste and the feeling and the experience you leave behind. What do you think that you in particular are known for in this industry now? And what trait of yours do you think contributed most to that?
Probably what I'm being portrayed for a lot at the moment is the content flashy guy, right? And I think that'll wear off after a while once people see the runs on the board that I'm getting. And then ultimately, the amazing relationships that I have at the moment, once they get to a higher volume, then that'll spin and they'll go, he's actually does the right thing, is good by the client, knows how to sell the boat, and does everything professionally end to end. So I see myself at the moment, probably being portrayed as this kind of flashy guy, hot in the pan kind of, it'll go away and he might be over and out soon, but I'm only getting warmed up, man.
Just the beginning.
And
man.
I think like just doing things right, you can't get a bad reputation from it. If you do the right thing by people, you can't get a bad reputation. So I'm more than happy to go, cool, that didn't work out. That was a bit of a loss, whatever. I'm not going to beat myself up. On to the next one and do it the right way. So yeah, the idea is, be renowned for top-notch service, really good products, and portrays himself online really well as well and provides value to everyone. That's the kind of the overarching mission.
I love that. It's a great thing to be known by.
Hopefully.
Yeah. What are you most excited about for your career and for yourself for 5 years from now?
I think The first sort of year, 18 months, really just been finding my feet and figuring out who's who in the zoo. And now I feel like I'm in a really good stride. I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm chasing after. And so I'm really just looking forward to having more numbers under my belt, in terms of volume of sales, and continuing to get to work with a really broad range of people in the industry, being a bit more of an all-rounder and just getting better, man. Yeah, I think just, again, doing the right thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. I've got some rapid fire questions for you.
Hit me.
What's your favorite boat and why?
Ooh, I don't have a particular favorite boat, I'd say, but in terms of my category or style, it'd be old timber-looking style cruisers, but in a fiberglass. So your Grand Banks, your Palm Beach, even right up to your kind of the larger sort of Fed ships, those kind of styles. More traditional gentleman's cruisers, but with all of your modern features and functionality. A listing that I have at the moment, and it ticks all of the boxes for me, would be the Halverson 44 that I've got. It's got new engine, like it's had over a $1.1 million refit on it. It's only asking $799, so there's a great buy for someone. But it's this crazy old school looking boat in absolute perfect condition with 2 new engines, Jenny, push start, you name it, like flybridge. It's just got everything that I would ever want in a boat. So yeah, it's that older style kind of gentleman's typical timber cruiser look and feel. Yeah, but modernized.
Quality craftsmanship.
Yeah.
Best spot for you to spend the day on the water in Sydney?
Oh, it's probably a bit of a cheesy one. Everyone knows it, but I really just love the basin up at Pittwater. Jump onto a swing mooring there, swim back and forth to the beach. There's no sharks. There's no nothing. Awesome. You just, you're hanging around. You're around the corner from America's Bay to go into the waterfall. If you want to get on land for a bit, if you got a dog or something, I don't, but if you do, but take them across on the tender. You can do the walk up to the rocks up the top. That'll take you kind of an hour there and back. There's a toilet block there. There's a lagoon you can swim in. Like, it's for a family weekend away or just a weekend with the boys or whatever. It's just such a good spot, and it's so close. Yeah, it's the best. I love it.
That's awesome.
Clean, safe.
We spent New Year's 2 years ago there.
Oh, nice.
It was amazing.
Yeah, it's a good part of the world. And the people are nice. You'll be, even Jade, my partner, and I, we'd have our big swim mat out and sitting on there with a glass of wine, and another boat next to us be like, well, I love your swim mat. Well, come on and have a drink with us. And then all of a sudden, you're on their boat having dinner, and it's just such a beautiful part of the world. There's not many places like that on the harbour, I reckon, anyway, that you'd get to experience that. So good people, good environment, safe, secure. It's good.
Speaking of which, next one, who's in your crew on the water?
Definitely Jade, my partner. We had a boat that we were doing up for a while. It was an old Mariner 31, I think it was, flybridge, and we had it for about 18 months. And she was my first mate and my best mate. We had the nicest time. I've got a lot of acquaintances, but my friendship circle is pretty tight and niche. I'd hang out with my acquaintances more than I do my friends, but I think my friends, they're people that you don't have to talk to for weeks on end, but when you chat on the phone, it's like you spoke yesterday and nothing changes. So I love that. But I think, going out on the water, you want to take new people out there. You want to expose them to the environment that they wouldn't get to go out on. So every time I get to grab a boat and go for a rip on the harbour, I'll try and get Jade to invite some friends who just never get out on the water, because you see their smile and, you're the good guy for taking them out, and you have a blast, and it's just the best. So yeah, it always kind of changes. Yeah.
That's awesome. Special experience to share.
100.
Besides people, what's your go-to bring along on the water, on the boat, that always leads to a good time?
Music, man. You've got to have good playlists. I've actually got a whole bunch of playlists that I pulled together, which before I was doing the podcast, my kind of listen component within my monthly mail out that I did, I would always have a playlist that people could listen to on their boats. So they range from, housey dance music right on through to, I listen to every genre and music from every year. So whether it be soul, swing, Italian, French, you name it, I've got a very eclectic music taste. And so if you ever want a playlist while you're out on the boat, let me know the occasion, let me know who's going to be there, and I'll send you a playlist.
You need to make them public for sure.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, I'll include them in the show notes or something. Yeah,
perfect. We spoke about this, but best part about your job, and also worst part or most challenging?
Look, the best part, I think I've touched on quite a bit, but just being out on the water when you get to go out and the people that you get to work with and the clients that you have. Worst part is it can become a little bit monotonous, as I've rambled on about being so process driven with KPIs and goals and all the rest of it. That, when you're not in a good headspace, can be really tiring and exhausting, and you'll go home and go, why is this all happening, and what am I doing? But tomorrow's a new day, man. You just get up and, get stuck back into it. Sometimes you just need a good sleep, or sometimes you need to go for a run.
Yeah.
Or sometimes you need a beer.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah.
The exercise component is a huge part of what keeps me going in the morning. And
100%.
Yeah, it's
You
huge.
never feel bad after you've gone for a run or once you've been to the gym. Yeah.
What's like a favorite resource you've found and in the past year that you couldn't imagine life without?
Ooh, like I could say the obvious ones, like, AI tools such as your chat GPT. We don't use a lot, but it's like, just finessing little bits and pieces once we've put our love into it creatively. Another good one is for editing podcast clips. If my editor's not available, we use a tool called Opus, which you kind of dump it in and it'll grab takeaways for you. But I think on a more personal level, I think implementing a bit of a routine for myself. So I've recently been off the booze, which is the first time in a long time. I'm not a raging alcoholic, but I'll drink every week and, go out with friends and whatever. So having a couple of weeks off the booze to reset and then, getting a really strict health routine in place. So getting up at 5:30, going either for a run or to the gym and then treating yourself with some nice, exercise type of things like going to a sauna or a spa or something as well. So they've been hugely beneficial to just keeping me level-headed in times where things are stressful and deals fall over because there's plenty of those.
Yeah. Or you'd have to be resilient, but putting mental health, I think, first is huge.
Very big on it.
Yeah. Last one. What does success in your life look like for you?
It's definitely changed from when I was younger. I think now it's about having a really nice, obviously, doing the right thing by customers and clients and the people that you work for and with. But on a selfish level, I'd love to have a really nice, beautiful family home that we can raise kids in and have a real destination that we can go to where we're not dying to go on a holiday and dying to go overseas. It's this house or home that has it all, a pool and pizza oven and a big yard and just having happy wife, happy life, happy kids. I think that's the main thing. It used to be about all of this, global travel and making tons of money. But I think all of that stuff costs a lot of money these days anyway to have a nice home. Yep. So that's probably a big driver. But just having this oasis is something that I really dream of having, which is, very soulful and just having the family there to grow up and watching everyone enjoy it. That's a big bucket list item for me at the moment is trying to get a house.
I think when we're driven by the not superficial things in life, it makes everything else so much more special. Like that.
And being in Sydney for the last, 13, 14 years, all you do is live in units and apartments and whatever. And so coming from when I was in Queensland, you have a family house and it's half the price of a unit as to where we live now. Yeah. And it's amazing. You just have some of the best memories you've ever had, kids coming around swimming in the pool and barbecues and like that's a weekend life. Whereas here it's very much escape your apartment or your unit, go to a fancy restaurant, drink a ton, come home, get up, get out of the house again. So I'm really looking forward to having a home where you can, just enjoy being in.
That's all for today, man. That was fantastic.
Love it, man. I had a blast. And it was so good to have you on my podcast as well. It was good.
So this will go out much later than your podcast is out. So if you're listening to this and got this far and want to hear me on Jack's podcast, go check out Seize the Deal. Awesome podcast hosted by Jack. And appreciate you today sharing your stories and unique insights. It's awesome to see and easy to see why you are where you are in the industry right now and just a great guy in general. So,
likewise, man. Thanks so much. And I wish you all the best in business and out on the water.
Thank you.
Cheers.
If you're interested in finding out more about Jack, check him out on Instagram and all the channels. Also the Seize the Deal podcast. And if you enjoyed this episode and found value in it, share it with other people and someone who you think would as well. And if you also know a legend like Jack making things happen in the industry, send them my way. Love to have them on and tell their story. Catch you on the next episode of the Rising Tidecast.